Cabin 13 Productions.
These, it takes so
No,
long to
they're
find
great.
the good. Whoa.
Whoa. Damn.
R.I.P. Liam Payne.
R.I.P..
Dude, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Well, you're not listening because you're dead. But, if you're in...
That doesn't make any sense. We do not condone the hitting of women.
And it's
that's the whole...
No one does, but,
Who
it's still
does?
funny to joke about from time to time. It's...
We're gonna...
I'm such a loser, sweating God, I'm the worst.
Comedy has always been a reflection of the times, a mirror held up to society, distorted just enough to make us laugh. But in 2025, that mirror feels like it's cracking. What once was unquestionably funny now sparks debate, and the line between joke and offense has never really been thinner. Have we lost our sense of humor, or are we just learning where to draw the line? Are we witnessing the evolution of comedy, or its slow death? One thing's for sure, the rules really have never changed, and not everyone's laughing. The stage is still there, the microphone is still on, but the fear of saying the wrong thing lingers in the air. So where does comedy go from here? Join us as we dive into the state of comedy in 2025, right here on the Woodsmen Podcast. Welcome back to the Woodsmen Podcast. We're your hosts, Brent Murphy.
And Joey Rucker.
And like we always say,
That's
another day, another nickel.
Another thing to add to the swear jar.
Yeah, that needs to be
We
one.
need a better phrase. We need a new one. We need a phrase to bring in the show so we don't... Because we say that phrase so we feel like we don't have to just be like...
It's because we pay homage to the show that raised us.
How many episodes are we going to do where we do that?
Everyone.
At some
We're
point,
gonna
it
be in
becomes less
episode
a homage
100.
and it becomes slander.
Or copyright.
Or copyright.
Or copyright
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
true.
How you been doing, bro?
I've been good. We talked a little bit about how last week life was sort of kicking me in the balls. But
It normally does.
I've had a bit of a better week, or at least what you could consider a week since the last recording. It hasn't. Week is a general
Everything's
term.
a blur. Everything's a
But
blur.
since
Honestly, I don't live by week. I live by paycheck at this point.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, the next paycheck came in. I
Yep.
guess that's another week to me.
I totally am the same way. Yeah, it's been better since the last recording.
Wow, that's crazy because it's been worse since the last one for me.
So sorry. Hey, listen, this is just how life goes. We're both
It
gonna
shouldn't.
go through waves.
It shouldn't.
Of course, it shouldn't, but it's gonna.
Yeah.
I shouldn't
Well-
say that. It always gets better, folks. Go, if you ever need help, go to BetterHelp. They have
Yeah, go to
not
BetterHelp.
sponsored, but
Not sponsored. They should be because my mental health depends on it at this point. Well, today's recording date is 2/19, February the 19th, 2025. And we're supposed to record on Sundays. It's currently Wednesday.
it's fine.
We're
dude.
getting there. We're getting
getting
there. I
there.
think last week was on Thursday. So
Yeah, this time it truly was just an accident because
yeah.
this last recording I just didn't have the equipment to record, and that was on me. So-
It's fine. It's fine. No one has
or
to.
on Sunday, whatever. But yeah, so we're back, and actually I wanted to bring up one thing in housekeeping before we get to some of the normal housekeeping stuff. Last week we said that it was our sort of, you guys just experienced Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we mentioned that you were going to go see a movie with your girl, and that I was going to get to see a movie that you were hoping to see on Valentine's Day but couldn't get tickets to. How was your movie?
First of all, movie, Love Hurts. It was a good movie. It was a good, here's the thing. It was a good movie. Wouldn't necessarily say it was a Valentine's Day movie. I mean, there was a romance in the action, but like, was it really a Valentine's Day movie? I mean, no, it just kind of seemed like there was
Yeah, but
like
don't
comedy
judge it for
and
that. You know how many movies are like coming out this Christmas, and it's like all there is Christmas related is snow. It's like
What do you mean?
Nothing else. I'm not saying
That's like you saying Just Friends isn't a
I'm
Christmas
not
movie.
saying Just Friends is just not a Christmas movie. I mean, it's kind of like whatever, but
It takes place in Christmas
we're not
time.
getting into this again, okay?
It's whack.
But
Yeah,
it's fine.
continue. It's fine.
I'm just saying
You're wrong, but it's
not.
cool.
It's like I don't know if they were gonna if you're ever gonna really get a Valentine's Day movie. I don't remember the last time I even saw like. I mean, I could just be uncultured.
I feel like every rom-com is a Valentine's Day movie, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I would fit into that category. I would say.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy rom-coms?
I do. I'm a
I
rom-com
enjoy
guy.
a rom-com when it's got like a good written story.
Well,
Like if I
yeah,
could
yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
the story on paper, then I think that obviously the acting is going to play into it. But there's been a couple. I mean, there's been some that I've seen where I really enjoyed it. I mean, you can't go wrong with what was it? That classic one, When Harry Met Sally. Have you? No way, dog. What? You've never seen When Harry Met Sally?
Have you watched The Notebook?
I have not seen.
That's
that.
what I thought.
Yeah,
That's what I
fair,
thought.
that's fair.
I mean, The Notebook, it'll make you cry for sure.
fair,
But
that's fair.
The Place Beyond the Pines is well, it's not a rom-com. It's like a rom-dramedy.
A romedy.
Yeah, romedy. A romedy for sure. That's actually like on my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Interesting.
Spider-Verse is actually on that list too, so you can tell how all over the place
All
that
over.
list is. But
Hey, I don't blame you. As long as a movie is good, then it absolutely can be on any top 5 list. It's just
Yeah.
got to be good.
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, no, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. Actually, because today's date is February 19th, I think
Mhm.
the 17th or the 16th, we actually saw Captain America
Yeah,
together. And my God,
I love
for
it.
anyone,
I love it so much.
for anyone who's a Marvel fan, please, like, I gotta say, you gotta be a comic fan, I think, to enjoy it more for what it is. Because there's a lot of people, I mean, we've talked about it before, like off cam, but there's a lot of people who can't even get over the fact that Sam Wilson is Captain America in the comics. Like, people are still out
want
here.
it to be what they were used to. Everybody likes their safety bubble, and losing such a big name character like Steve Rogers, and then moving on to someone like Sam Wilson, it's like it's gonna be tough for people to get over. But I mean, like, if you can just get over the fact that it's change, it's a really good movie, and he's
Yeah.
such a good Captain America.
And it's a great, I wouldn't say like the movie itself was comic accurate,
Not
but
in
the
every scene, no.
characters were very, I
Very
feel
well
like
done.
very true to the comics in like personality.
Harrison
how they
Ford
talk,
did
how they-
great.
yeah.
I was so impressed.
It was a very political drama type of movie. It
Mhm.
was like, I don't know. I think people were comparing it a lot to real life situations. It's not a real life situation type of movie.
But
It's
none
quite
of them are. None of
literally
the Marvel movies are. People
Yeah.
have got to stop going in.
like, oh,
and,
it's a
like-
political statement. It's like, it really wasn't. It's
No.
literally what happens, like,
Yeah.
comic wise, the strife between like super people
Mm-hmm.
just in general versus the government and what all goes into that, how we should deal with that, what we should do. I mean, it was phenomenal. I think it was really good because you actually didn't care for Falcon and the Winter Soldier as much as I
not.
did,
Yeah.
because I really, I mean, that's like one of my top
I would
like
like to
Marvel
make it
shows.
clear.
It wasn't bad. It just wasn't your fave.
Falcon was great in the show. I mean, the suit was so dope. The story was okay. The scene with soldier the hell is
The
that
Winter
guy?
Soldier?
No,
Or,
no, no, no. Something like American. Oh my god, I can't remember his name. But
yeah.
that
yeah,
guy who was like the quote unquote new Captain America before Sam Wilson kind of finally took the role.
He's like the
U.S.
dark,
agent. That's
yeah,
the name.
U.S. agent. Yep, there we go.
That scene when he like slams down Captain America's shield onto the dude. I've never thought I would see a scene like that.
I never, yeah.
So yes, the
It's
show
like
has,
you just tainted the shield, bro.
Yes.
You just tainted the shield.
the show has its moments. I just think like that the terrorist
I think-
group was kind of lame, and
that's fair.
and
That's
I
fair.
think that it kind of dragged out a little bit with the whole like, come on, just take on the role as Captain America.
I think a
already.
lot of it, and this is someone where it really was impactful for me as a show, for Marvel at least. I think a lot of it was the main setup was the strife between Sam Wilson finally taking the mantle of someone who is unforgettable. I mean,
Yeah.
Chris Evans, Captain America, will never be matched because it's been around for so long. But I think that's what gives it the like credibility. It's like it's not just like for us real world looking at it like a new Captain America, like what is this? Not Steve Rogers. You know, it gave us exactly what it was almost giving in the movie.
Mhm.
Like how people would take it like
yeah.
Steve Rogers isn't our Cap.
However, I
Like
would
Steve
like
Rogers
to
will always
give
be our Cap.
one
you know?
opinion on that whole thing, that whole arc of Sam Wilson. I think it needs to stop now in the movies.
No, I think
going
now
forward,
after the movie,
if there's still
it's there.
like drama scenes about like, oh, you're not my Cap, it's like, dude,
or
how
like
many
or like
movies are
the
you
in
gonna
between
make?
of
Yeah.
like I'm the Black Captain America, which I
Yeah.
mean that's a big thing.
Sure,
It's like, you know,
But it's like at some point there are going to be such big villains coming out, especially
that
this
is not
Doomsday
what
stuff.
I'm focused on.
Yeah, who
that is
cares
not
anymore?
Yeah.
You're Captain America. Like that's
but
just
I think
period.
this movie really did that justice
yeah.
to get behind that.
Mhm.
I mean, like you said before I had even seen it, there were a lot of scenes where it was like you had civilians or you had, you know, military men and stuff like saying like, thanks, Cap. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh my God,
Yeah,
we finally have gotten
getting
to the
there.
point where like he's not Sam Wilson.
no, he is Captain
He's
America.
Captain America,
Yeah.
you know, and I think they did a really good job.
I've
of,
even
like,
gotten to the point where I forget to call
He's
him
Cap.
Falcon anymore.
He's just Cap,
Falcon's
yeah.
been gone for a while. He really is just
I
Captain
would say
America.
that too, but I think I boofed up on the last episode. I think I called, yeah, I think I called him Falcon,
It
but
comes out sometimes by accident. But like, I think overall, I don't view him as
no,
Falcon
like
anymore. There's nothing in my
he
brain where
is
I'm like-
Cap,
especially
like, he is
since
Cap.
his new friend, you know, not to spoil too much, but that there is a new Falcon like in the works. I can't remember
Yeah.
how much was disclosed in the trailers, so you know, not to go too much into spoilers yet. It's
I
still
mean,
a fresh
everyone-
movie.
Anyone who has seen all of like the Marvel, I
Yeah.
guess, series type stuff, you'll know there's a new
there's
there's
gonna
a
be
new
a new
person who takes up
Falcon,
the
yeah.
mantle of
And
Falcon.
so you're still gonna get your Falcon stuff if you're
let
a
me
Falcon
tell
fan.
you, and let me tell you, he did incredible.
He did
He
very
did
good.
incredible.
Yeah.
Like just the and not even like character wise, just like thinking of like how would a Marine or someone like that
Mhm.
respond to like taking up a mantle like that? It's fun. It's like there's a lot of jokes being cracked. There's a lot of like, nah, I got it. And it's
Mhm.
like, you don't. Like
You don't got
know,
it.
like there's just so much about it
Yeah.
that was just like wow, like it was essentially like really more of a war movie
Mhm.
to me rather
Yeah,
than
no,
superhero. It was very like, you know, combat oriented, very like political, very, you know, the threat of the nation versus like it was just
Also, wasn't
it was a
just,
perfect
like,
amount.
we really shouldn't do this because we
I
do this to
know,
ourselves
I
every
know.
time. But wasn't it also so nice to have a grounded movie again? Not everything had to be like multiverse, time travel,
And there was
aliens.
no origin, there was no like it was just
like we're back on
real
Earth,
world.
and
It was
Earth
real
is gonna have
world.
its own issues.
Yeah.
There's still villains on Earth, you know. And
Yeah.
it was so refreshing.
and bringing my boy back, the original African American super soldier.
Oh yeah, Isaiah.
That was great.
Isaiah
Bringing
was cool.
Isaiah back and just continuing that story without like,
Mhm.
oh, whatever happened to him? Like, no, like we
Yeah,
had him in it, integral part of the story. It
was
was just
good.
all around a really good movie.
definitely
I enjoy
recommend
it.
the watch. You guys should go see it. We'll try. Hopefully, we didn't spoil too much.
Captain America: Brave New World.
Go see it.
Definitely, please.
One day
please.
we're gonna have a movie podcast where we can just
Yeah.
not
At
have
this
to trail
at this
off.
point, we need a Marvel
We
podcast
do
because
just need a
it's
Marvel
just
podcast, dude. Go
there's
through every
so
Marvel
much.
movie one at a time, and then we're caught up.
yeah,
Oh man,
easy.
One
easy.
day.
One day. Well, did you have any real housekeeping before we went into our normal?
Not much. I mean, as far as people, we haven't really talked too much about the behind the scenes of Woodsmen in a while. We used to do that every time we had housekeeping. For those of you who are interested in the behind the scenes, we are like close to being locked into a perfect setup, a perfect like way of doing things, which I think is pretty cool for us.
Yeah, every week something gets added.
Yeah, and,
You know.
and it's been nice to just be able to, especially with editing, at least for the video side. I don't know about you, but video side has been so much swifter now that we've got everything nailed to a T. So I mean,
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. It's been a lot, I will say, with work and just the amount of hours we're
time
putting.
management.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's-
time management has been
but
terrible.
Everything, like the fact that it would be even worse if we were running the studio we had back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Even worse.
I mean, both of us having to drive to a location.
Bringing a whole. Did
we?
we ever mention that
Joey was
I
bringing his
my
whole desktop
the whole like tower of my like dog. That was ridiculous.
every week, and then
Yeah.
disconnecting everything and bringing it home. Like,
Yeah.
It
Not
it
good.
was a lot, but no, we finally got into a space where it's comfortable. We definitely have more we want to do, and we know Patreon's been lacking.
Yeah.
We got some stuff coming up. I promise. We're gonna get it out. It's just been like a little insight into our lives. I don't think there's been a single
yeah,
weekend we haven't worked
It's
in
been,
the past like 3 to 4 weekends. Like we have worked at least one day during the weekend on top of our normal schedule. I'm temporary full time. I don't think we ever actually mentioned
You
that
did
too.
mention
If
it
we
last
did,
episode,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's that's a big thing too. Especially since I was the one that was like writing majority of the outline.
That's
and
why I was trying
doing
to,
social
I actually, there you
posts
go.
and
That's
doing all that.
housekeeping. I helped
Joey did
so
this whole
much on
outline.
the whole outline this
Yeah.
time. I actually wanted to like not be a slacker and actually
It's
help
It's
out.
helped because it's just been really busy.
Yeah.
I don't. Did we even mention the fact that we have a whole rack system now with all of
We
our
may have
setup?
mentioned our powers better, but yeah, the power was. If we haven't mentioned it, it was bad. It was very unsafe. We could have been.
We were like outlet to, not even extension. We were outlet to power strip, from power strip to power strip, and we had at
And then-
least 11 to 12 things
Yeah.
connected to one power
Both
strip.
power strips were almost full.
Yeah.
that's and the second power strip had USB ports on it that were also
they were
being
also
used.
all filled.
Like it was actually ridiculous.
Like
and
one thing could happen and it would have destroyed
Would've been
everything
so
we
bad.
own. Yeah.
So now, yeah. now,
So we have good power
thanks
now.
to our
and-
boy Fabian.
Yeah, shout out Fabian at Guitar Center.
he hooked us up, dude. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
The Woodsmen definitely appreciate you.
Yeah, without you, bro, we would have been it would have been over.
Yeah,
Would have been over a long time ago. But we're on We Laugh Week. You
Yeah.
know, we've been trying to keep it pretty steady as far as our weeks and everything. And this week is going to be a lighthearted comedy based episode.
Yep.
So we hope you guys enjoy it. As, the title says, we're going to be talking about a lot about comedy and just the history of comedy and how comedy is in 2025, which it's pretty rough right now, I will say, as far as how people be taking comedy. But we'll discuss that in
in the episode.
But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, stories, or even inquiries on Cabin 13 Productions or our studio space, you can always head over to the woodsmanpod@gmail.com.
If you want to interact with us, you can also hit us up on Instagram or X at Woodsmen Pod.
And lastly, you can subscribe to our Patreon for our candid, uncensored show. Had to look at the notes right there. It's been a while, I feel, since we said that. Back to the cabin. You know, Cabin 13.
The cabin.
The Woodsmen Podcast. The cabin.
I'm a bear.
I'm a wolf. But yeah, you can subscribe to the Patreon at Back to the Cabin at patreon.com/the Woodsmen Podcast. And we promise we'll post another episode. I won't say by the end of this month, but I'll definitely say it's coming in March.
Yes, I think we can. It's been rough again. The life has been kicking us in the ass the last couple weeks.
Quite literally.
Really bad.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get everything back on track. I think if we somehow are not able to get it out by February, March will be the first month where we start our monthly episodes again of Back to the Cabin.
I will say,
that's fair.
if we can't get it done by March, we'll just put the tier to free for the month of March.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, guys.
I feel bad for making.
Yeah.
Our
You guys are paying for nothing. I
Nothing,
apologize. We just have been so busy. So we'll figure all that out. We also got a sponsor, hopefully coming
we're trying to
soon
figure that
in
out
March.
too.
So
But yeah.
Yeah.
That's most of our housekeeping. We're gonna get right into the show. Comedy.
Comedy.
Let's
Dive on in. Take a shot.
So, as we mentioned in housekeeping, and as you probably gathered from our intro, we are talking about comedy, the state of it in 2025.
What?
Huh? How? Oh. The chat won't understand that. I mean, unless they do. Yeah, it'll
cue the cat meme.
He's
with the cat.
He's right
its
next
head.
to Brent. Yeah, so clearly we are like comedians.
We are clearly delusional and tired. That's what we are, bro.
It's true. I wanted to go over, as we also mentioned, I kind of took over the outline production for this week. And so I didn't know exactly what we wanted to discuss as far as comedy in 2025 goes. But I figured what we could sort of go into is a little bit of the history of comedy. And I think primarily you'll find most of our information today is going to be about stand-up comedy compared to just like comedy in movies as a genre, stuff like that. We're going to be talking a bit more about stand-up and just making jokes as a comedy topic. So I wanted to discuss a little bit of the history of comedy and as well kind of how it compares to today and if comedy today still stands up or if it still has a chance, or as Brent mentioned in the intro, is it just dying? Who knows? Do you have an opinion?
I think it's dying. I think people have become like way too sensitive about comedy. I think people can't take a joke, personally. I think, and we've talked about this many times before, you're really paying someone, like if you're going to a comedy show, which we have done like multiple times, you're essentially paying someone to offend you. And if you're getting offended to the point where you got to take to the internet or interrupt a show or try to crowd work a show that's not even yours, it's like,
yeah,
it's obviously dying because people can't just.
People will leave comedy shows, and it's like I understand that jokes are offensive, like duh, but it's like,
but it's a joke.
That's the whole.
That's
point.
The whole point of going. Like
it's like how people don't understand the word literally anymore, like the true.
Like literally, just like
the term is joke. it is it's a joke. It's not true.
It's
not,
a ha-ha.
Yeah.
Like, it's a ha-ha, bro. Like,
you're not supposed to take it seriously. There's no point in taking it seriously. We're meant to come together as a group of people. Similar, I would consider it a lot like movies. And obviously you have comedy in movies, but I would consider it a lot like movies in the fact that we all are going to work every day. We're slaving away, doing that grind.
Amen, brother.
And sometimes what we all love to do as a community is take a break, gather together, a bunch of strangers to experience this thing. And in this case, like my example, it's movies. You get together, you see a movie, and it's a way to escape the real world for a bit. It's the same thing with comedy. You're going to a show to experience something that you would never hear in the workplace. You would never hear just like walking down the street. It's something that's supposed to like make you forget about the seriousness and the well, seriousness is probably the best term, but the non-fun of reality,
Yeah, you see, the thing I don't understand, and we'll get into the actual topics like after this, I would assume,
Mhm.
but the thing that bothers me is, how are you gonna buy a ticket to? Because comedy is not like a movie. Like, you can't just like, you see a trailer and you're like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay $10 to like go see this movie, and it's either hit or miss, right? Comedy, if you are a comedy guy or gal, you have to pretty much know the comedian. I don't really know any shows where you can just go like, out on a whim. I'm just going to go and see this guy. I don't know who it is. I'm not into comedy, but I'm going to go pay to go see a comedian. Like, it's not really
My
like that.
only argument against that would be comedy clubs. I think you could go.
Yeah, but if
you
you're
want
going to a comedy club, you're going to a comedy club. You're not going to see Tom Segura.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Chappelle. You're not going to see Bert Kreischer. You're not going to see Joe Coy. You're not like, if you're going to see a big person, you're spending money, like money.
No, if you're
like
spending real money on it, I agree.
You know, like, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
From that person. And then you're going to complain about
Although,
the joke being too real, quote unquote. Like, that's just stupid.
I have another
Like,
argument, though, just because I want to hear your opinion. What if you're like someone's date and they were like, hey, I know this comedian. You haven't really heard of him, but I would love to take you to the show. The guy's super funny. And then they make like a super offensive joke.
Yeah.
What do you do then when that person gets offended?
Then you should blame the date, because obviously the date doesn't know you well enough to know your comedy. You know, your sense of humor, you know, like why are you gonna blame the comedian for doing what he does on a daily basis every single day?
It's literally
for at least 50 shows.
Quite
a
literally,
year.
it's
Like,
their job.
Yeah,
you
that
know?
is like, it's like, okay, you don't like it. 90% of the other people here have no complaints. You're the only one that's sitting here trying to crowd work my show because I don't like it. Like, that's
already
your fault.
so
like,
into
that's
it.
your fault, dude. Like, I can't stand people like that, dude. It's like, you know, if your date brought you to the show, you should question like, I can't believe you would take me to a show like that. He's so sexist. It's like, well, I mean, I guess you're not with it.
I guess
like
you didn't
that,
realize
you know?
that
like,
I was sexist
yeah,
too.
It's like, you know, if you're gonna see a comedian that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
a lot of, and it's pretty taboo, but like, if you listen to comedians that make a lot of like, say, racist jokes, or like jokes about like politics, or like jokes about, you know, sexism, or like stuff like that, because it gets a rise out of people, majority of the people that go to the shows know that those are the jokes that they make. They know that's it. Like, that's not how they believe. That's just the jokes they make because of the fact that it just gets a rise out of people, you know? So it's like, if you're going to sit there and then buy a ticket, like, you're going to pay.
It's true.
I'm going to pay $100 to go see Tom Segura make some haha jokes about women or something. Like, watch his podcast, watch Your Mom's House with his wife, where they both make those same jokes.
Yeah,
They both
yeah.
talk like that. Like, that's just their humor. It's like, then don't go. Like, everyone else there is
It's
there to
not
have
that
fun.
hard to just
It's-
not go.
Yeah, you don't have to believe in the jokes to just be like, that was funny.
Yeah,
You know, like,
yeah.
people just take things so serious
Or-
right now, and
or
it's so
y-
ridiculous.
Why be so offended by it? I understand being offended by something. Like, people say hurtful things, and
Yeah,
even if you
yeah.
don't understand the fact that it's a joke and you're truly offended, why make such a big deal? It gets into the Karen aspect of life,
It's
where it's
not
like, why are you-
someone in the workplace
Yeah.
made the joke. It's someone who gets paid for a living
Exactly.
to make offensive jokes
Yeah.
to get a rise out of you. You know, that's just I will never understand it.
We probably will be going into this a lot, but I do want to backtrack a little bit. I want to not go off on all the haters of comedy right
No,
off
I'm
the
going
bat.
off on the haters, bro. F- you guys, bro. F- you.
I want to also take some time to talk a little bit. Here at the Woodsmen, we love to learn things, I think. And so I thought it would also be fun to kind of go over some of the history of comedy, because stand-up comedy wasn't, and at least in the medium it is now, it wasn't always like that. It took a long time for stand-up comedy to become
To be
what
offensive.
it is. Yeah. Well, also to become mainstream in general. Like, it was...
Like, people getting paid as much as like a musician or something.
Yeah,
to, like, go
exactly.
on
It took a
stage
long
and-
time to
yeah.
get there. So I have tabulated some facts. for
Joey
us.
is also turned into me.
I
I
have
find
completely-
it hilarious. I find it hilarious that Joe, like for chat, for anyone who hasn't listened to previous episodes, like way back,
Yeah.
like Joey's version of podcast is so different from mine. The podcasts I listen to are like people who dead ass have like 60-page scripts of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they read word from word, and it's like all this facts. It's like, yeah, I spent my whole life like doing archaeology, or like I spent my whole life like, on parapsychology, all this kind of stuff. And they like write all these facts, and Joey's like, what do you mean an outline for a podcast? So it's like, it makes me happy to know that now you have done so much. We have already cut things out, and we haven't even gotten there yet. Like,
I think to me, it's just like, it's got to be something I'm super into, because like
see, now you get it.
No,
now
and I
you
do,
get it.
because like obviously you had that with the pirate episode. You
Yeah,
had,
I wrote like
you had
30 pages on
so
pirates,
many notes
dude,
for the pirates, and like now
and no
I'm
one
sitting-
listened.
Hey man, it would be the greatest punchline if no one listened to this one
Yeah,
either. The
I
one
mean,
that I put the most effort
Hey,
into.
I will say we averaged 3.5 to 4,000 like views in it's not traction, but like people who view our social medias. We have that every single month, by the way. So I
Hey,
just thought
I
I'd
will
let
take
you
that.
know.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, Brent's right.
So I'm obviously
I-
doing something right,
No,
guys.
yeah, dude, I've told you a bunch of times, those social shorts that you make for us, fire. Some of them, I'll
You know how
literally
long
forget
it
we
takes
talked
some
about.
of these? Like, it takes so
No,
long to
they're
find
great.
the good. Whoa.
Whoa,
Whoa.
damn.
I can't even say words right now. That's crazy. You know how long it takes me to find some of those clips, dude? Like, I run it like 2 times speed,
Yep.
trying to
Yep.
find which one is like where we laugh, like a
Mhm.
hearty laugh. And I'm like, clip that. I
It's
don't even
always-
know what I
yeah.
say, but clip that, bro. 30
Sometimes
seconds.
I'll be like that, but sometimes I'm like, that can't go into the
Yeah,
intro.
yeah, there's some of them where I'm like, you talk about bad taste, am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. In case none of you are aware, we have cut scenes out of The Woodsman because comedy in 2025 is a
Yeah,
sensitive...
you guys like to cancel a lot of people, man. And let me tell you, if you didn't cancel, you'd be having some funny ass shit. That's all
That's
I
why
gotta
you should
say,
go
bro.
check out our uncensored show over on...
Back to the Cabin at Patreon.
Almost said Reddit.
Patreon.
not
Oh
it.
my god, we should have a Reddit.
A Woodsman Reddit.
Oh, dude, we would get canceled so fast because I'd be
So
saying
fast.
some unhinged because knowing me, I'm gonna be the one that posts everything on Reddit, and I'm just gonna say some out of pocket stuff.
Hey, but it could be great too, though, because we could get a lot of interaction for like spooky stories. We could get a lot of interaction for like
comedy,
/comedy
comedy
stuff. I mean, it could be great. It could be great.
Yeah.
All right.
Follow us on our Reddit that hasn't existed
That
yet.
doesn't
Probably
exist.
the
Honestly,
Woodsmen
that's
Pod
just as much of a promise that we give people as we do our Reddit, our
Reddit, our Patreon, patreon.com/the Woodsmen Podcast.
Cabin 13, back to the cabin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm gonna get into the notes. I'm gonna try not to go through freaking.
Yeah, we haven't even gone through point one of the notes yet, and
let's talk
15 minutes
about a brief history of comedy.
Yeah, give me a brief history, bro.
I have it kind of separated by the decades. By the decades. The first one is about 100 years, but then we kind of go because it's back from the 1800s. Because again, it took a long time for comedy to basically evolve into what it is, at least stand-up comedy wise. And so going back as far as the 1800s to the early 1900s, there were vaudeville acts, and these included like short comedic performances, often slapstick or character driven. And I feel like I've seen some shows like this where if you go back a long time,
maybe slapstick,
not
sure.
like you actually have footage. But I don't remember. Actually, I don't even know how long footage is, but definitely not 1800s.
I think cameras were like, late 1800s. I think you had cameras, but not video.
Not video. No. But. And so you had a lot of people just going out acting like a dork, almost like I would consider jester like, for like a king. Like you kind of have a guy going up on stage and they're just like, look at me, I'm a moron. And
like the Three Stooges, but 1800s.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of the vibe I get
like
when
that
I think
slapstick
of vaudeville.
Yeah, exactly. Very like, this is just stupid, but at the same time, I got nothing else better. So
what was I gonna do today? Ride horses? I mean,
I mean, probably is better than like old slapstick. It was probably like, you want to make some money, and then like tips top hat or some shit like that. Like
I can throw this ball out of my mouth and you'll never see it again.
And he's just them having a ball in their mouth or something.
Totally
like
wrong. Like we may
100%.
have
We didn't do that much research.
No,
we did
just
research
know about
not
what happened in these decades. But,
now I will say, you have minstrel shows on here as well, and I think that's cool because I actually had a class that touched on all of that, and it was an African American history class of the 1800s to present. So I can't wait to see what you have.
I don't know
like
if
that
I
kind
have
of stuff,
much.
but that's cool. It's whatever. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
yeah, guys. Because Joey did all of this outline, I haven't really read much of it. I've only read the main points, but
Hey
never
man,
mind.
Mind. You got a complete week off. Just take your time.
I did. I had such a good week, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was mainly because I did like all the notes for like season 4 so far, so it was nice to finally have a break on one of them. But
moving to the next decade, I can't keep us on a decade for too long. We have too many notes to get through.
That's fine. Whatever.
I love you.
We don't
I love
even
you
gotta
so
talk
much.
about what I wanted to.
I don't have anything on.
Well, maybe you should have had more.
I should have, but there's a lot to go through, buddy.
All right, so nightclub and radio era.
Yes,
Tell me about that.
This
bro.
was the 1930s to the 1950s.
Damn, you really skipped a lot right there, huh?
No,
1800s
to
early 1900s.
Now we're in the 1930s. This is only like 3 decades later.
There ain't no minstrel shows.
All right. Comedy at this time in the nightclub and radio era moved from theaters to clubs with comedians performing between musical acts.
So tell me some of those acts. Tell me some.
There
of
were,
those
I mean, some of the mentionable names are people like Bob Hope, Jack Benny, Milton Berle.
I've heard Bob Hope.
There was also
and Jack Benny.
Radio was a big thing for comedy because radio helped comedians like reach way wider audiences as well.
Well, yeah, and this is just like someone who took classes in radio and broadcast production and all that kind of stuff. Radio was like really one of the first outlets for people to really branch out and like have their own shows and do like what they wanted to do. I know you don't have anything about that, but I can talk
No,
on
go
some
for
of
it.
that. But the history of radio is like really fascinating. Like you said, what it starts in like the 1930s. Yeah, 1930s to
Yeah, I mean
1950s.
that's a
Like
general, but yeah,
radio has been around for like a really long time. I don't think a lot of us like have really realized that. But when you go into radio and radio broadcast, you can essentially have your own radio show just by having a ham radio license.
Mm.
I mean, you can, a lot of people, they just talk, you get the comment from like, TV or like movies like, oh, breaker 19, blah, blah, blah. And it's always like, people who are on the road
Yeah.
in like trucks and stuff. But you have to remember,
this
people
is fish stick
like,
to jelly weasel.
yeah, like stuff like that, like crazy call names
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
But, things like Coast to Coast AM and stuff, AM radio is open to the public, period, to broadcast on.
Hmm.
So a lot of it has to do with, radio finally gave an outlet to comedians to be
Yeah.
able to say whatever they wanted.
And at least
on
like,
radio
way
to a
more
massive
leniency
audience. Yeah.
than just being on a stage could. Like it gave them
Yeah.
much more.
Because if you just had the license, no one can sit there and say like, "Oh, you're getting sued for whatever." It's like, no, it's
Yeah.
it's free speech, and you have the license. You know,
Yeah.
if you're doing everything legally, like people were allowed to really just branch out and do like different things. So it's interesting
Yeah.
to know, just by the little amount I've read already from the outline and the script and stuff like that. Like, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of people had way more freedom to express themselves and their individuality
Of
and
course.
stuff like that. You could essentially have an entire show with like 3 or 4 comedians at a time. That was essentially like a live show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just broadcasted. You just have to,
Yeah.
tune in to hear it, and at the time there was no recording, there was no any of that. It was like, if you're not there, you don't hear it,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, radio, I could see would make a big wave
A
in
huge
that
wave.
kind of stuff, because you had the opportunity to really express your freedom of speech and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So
Well, and that, I mean, that just literally goes right into the next like set of time era that I have is the 1950s to the 1970s. This was like the television
yeah.
boom and the rise of stand up as a career. I mean, radio gave such a big avenue for comedians and just comedy in general to grow and expand, but the introduction of like it becoming a more
seeing it, like
seen
actually
thing,
being,
I
yeah.
mean, a huge thing. You have all the Tonight shows, and I mean, the Ed Sullivan show I have here listed as an example. It just gave like comedians national exposure. Stand up at the time started to become a more legitimate career, with comics headlining in major venues. I have here written Lenny Bruce pushed boundaries, specifically bringing in more provocative and personal material. This was like another thing that started to come of the era. Like you said, with radio, it gave a lot of time for, or a lot of opportunity to be more free speech oriented, and TV and or no, I'm just television in general gave even more of an avenue for people to just start saying everything they were thinking, which
Yeah.
started to lead to even more free speech and more opinionated comedic styles.
Yeah. Well, and I just looked it up right now too. One of my favorite radio broadcasts that like was right on the cusp of like, the 30s to 50s, where then you would have the radio boom coming in within the 70s and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Orson Welles War of the Worlds, the famous radio broadcast.
Oh, yes.
That actually happened in 1938.
Really?
Like that first one, people were, now for anyone who doesn't know about this, so Orson Welles wrote the book War of the Worlds. It was a book about an alien invasion on Earth, all this kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
And to publicly debut the book, they had done a radio broadcast. And it's like, it's crazy because like when we're young, because we had learned about this when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
You never really get the dates. You
Yeah.
don't get it until you're older and you're like, oh man, things were happening pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
1938, that was, like you said before, the radio boom, the 30s to the 50s. And then you have the 70s, the 50s to the 70s. That was when like television really became the rise of everything.
Yeah.
October 30th, 1938, that was when that came out.
Wow.
And people were committing suicide.
Lost their minds. Yeah.
Like, people were committing suicide because they thought it was real. So you have to think of, like, the radio boom
Mm-hmm.
was such a
It was-
powerful tool to people
Yeah.
that they were, like, they thought it was real. They thought it was something that was actually happening because you just don't have, like
There's
to
no
us, we're like,
concept.
that's crazy.
But we've had so much time to adjust and
Yeah.
understand.
These people were like, oh, the radio just, like, really became big. So, like, obviously everything on the radio has to be real. Same thing as what we do right now with, like, oh, whatever on the news has to be real. Whatever's on the internet has to be real.
It's like-
all that kind
It's
of
all,
stuff.
yeah, it's like AI too. I mean,
Yeah.
AI is a big thing where some people just don't understand what's fake and what's not anymore. You're
Yeah.
just like, oh, this
Yeah.
must be
They don't know how
completely
to
true.
tell. They don't understand, like, what goes into it, all that kind of stuff. But, I know you moved on to the television part of stand-up, but I thought it is
No.
worth mentioning
Absolutely.
that, like, that's 12 years before the television part.
Yeah. No,
of,
I
like,
mean, that's
the boom
great.
of comedy
It just
and
shows
everything.
how
So
much having an avenue to be able to have your voice reach national exposure
yeah.
can make such a difference,
So
or
that-
make such a peak in a beginning
Yeah.
of an era. you
So
know?
that I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people don't really understand, history wise, like what else was going on
Mhm,
in that
mhm.
time. But that was prominent. Like, that was a prominent thing to people where it's like you listen to it now and you're like, yeah, it's a book ad,
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like,
This is
you
the worst
have stuff
creepy
where
pasta I've ever listened
yeah,
to.
right? Like, this isn't, yeah. No, it's it is very interesting. And then you think about the fact that, like, in between the 1950s and the 70s, that's when television really, like, became a prominent thing. And I think a lot of people probably, knowing how people reacted to the War of the Worlds type of stuff, I could only imagine how people were reacting to comedy back then too, because if people were taking things so serious, like, has what we have, like we were talking about before, has what we have experienced with people being, like, comedy Karens,
Mhm.
or, people who take things too seriously and all that kind of stuff, has that really changed since, like, the start of the comedy boom?
I mean, it could have
You
also
know?
potentially
Or-
gone the opposite way, though. I mean,
Yeah.
having television and being able to see the comedian and being able to see such a different medium of entertainment could have almost given them a different outlook, instead of taking things so seriously. Because, again, I think a lot of comedy now is very can't take it seriously.
Well,
You
yeah,
have to be,
But comedy is also a lot vulgar now and stuff too. There's a lot more
honestly,
that goes
dude,
into
from what
comedy,
I've been
but-
looking at, yes, we are more audibly vulgar, but I think there's always been an aspect of vulgarity
Yeah, that's a
um
real word.
in
yeah, that's real. Yeah.
there's always been an aspect of offensive type of comedy in almost every generation. I mean, it goes back all the way to the beginning of comedy. There's always been, like, people who have found dark humor depending on, like,
By the way, I love dark humor. I don't know about
I
you,
love dark
but
humor, too.
there's some great dark humor. I know we talked about with the third man syndrome.
oh
My
God, what did we
man,
talk about with the third man syndrome? I don't
My man that made it out of the Twin Towers and everything. And let me tell you, this is the comedy episode. So, like, if you guys don't like it, you guys don't like it. But, like, it took me a lot to read that seriously. I've made so many 9/11 jokes that it's like when you hear a real story of, like, a tragedy, it's like, ooh,
Ooh,
maybe the things
but-
I think of her in bad
That's
taste.
the thing that's so
but like,
weird is I have such a hard time debating on if comedy right now is dying because every time, I mean every time when what's his name? Liam was his name Liam from One Direction?
oh, Liam Payne.
Liam Payne when he died, I
He
saw
definitely
so many
went One
things
Direction,
on
and it was
Yeah.
down.
This is what I'm talking about. 9/11 happened so long ago. And
Sorry, Liam Payne. It's too soon. It's too soon.
I mean,
Is
it hasn't
it?
even been a year. Like,
Who else is talking about it now, though?
I saw
He was a member of One
Buddy,
Direction, and I
Buddy,
don't see anyone
I
posting
saw
about
a
it anymore.
video. And I'm really, again, I mean no disrespect to Liam.
No, I don't, because I actually loved One
But
Direction.
I saw, this is just genuinely to talk about how fast people are so easily able to go into dark comedy.
It was the same day.
The same day I heard the news about his death, I saw a video that was a clip from The Boys TV show where a person was on their phone talking to someone, and in the background, someone fell from a building, and the audio, kind of like how Brent does that. You just
yeah, you know,
you
the
just
TIE fighter
heard,
from
like,
Star Wars.
light up. That's what makes you beautiful. That's what I...
Bad Days. That shit's funny as hell, dude.
Okay.
God, R.I.P. Liam Payne. Like,
R.I.P..
dude, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Well, you're not listening because you're dead. But you know, if you're in... if you're listening, I respect you to the utmost amount. By the way, what is the word utmost?
Dog, I don't
Shouldn't
know.
it be upmost? What's an ut?
Is it ut? Are you
Yeah,
sure it's not
it's
upmost?
UT.
Utmost.
UTMOST.
I don't know. Look it up.
Nah, I don't want to.
All right. Well,
I'd like
let's
to say it's upmost.
let's get back on track. I'm gonna try and just quickly go through the rest of like the generations because we don't have time to go through every detail. Around the 1970s to the 1980s, this was like when comedy clubs and the stand-up boom kind of really skyrocketed. Dedicated comedy clubs like the Comedy Store, the Improv, Caroline's popped up across the U.S. Richard Pryor and George Carlin revolutionized stand-up by blending social commentary with humor. It was a big moment where this is kind of around where I would say stand-up comedy truly became like a big thing. 1990s to the 2000s is when mainstream popularity in comedy on TV became very normal. Stand-up led to sitcom careers like Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Ellen DeGeneres, late night talk shows, all that kind of stuff.
Which is like crazy because you do think of like I think of Seinfeld, and I think that was it, at least for me, that was like one of those times where it was full slapstick, full like super cheesy, but like at the same time you had your like dirty innuendos
Yeah.
of things. You had there I just remember, well, I mean, it was literally Seinfeld. The whole thing was like he was playing himself. Like he was literally
Yeah.
there were parts of the show where he was at a stand-up like club, like the Improv, and he would say like a random joke, and that would be the filler to like to like just the rest of the show, you know. And from Seinfeld, I mean, I will say, I didn't watch a lot of Seinfeld. I've watched like probably the first 1 or 2 seasons, but Seinfeld then went into Curb Your Enthusiasm, the boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
You know, I'd probably get copyrighted for that, but
Nah.
it goes into Curb Your Enthusiasm. Oh man, I forget his name. Larry David.
Mm.
He was actually a writer on Seinfeld, and then Curb Your Enthusiasm is his show, and then that is also like a very like slapstick,
Yeah.
very like a show about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when it kind of like branches off, and we'll probably get to like more of that era of comedy and stuff like that. But that even goes into like The Office. It's a show about nothing.
Yeah.
It's quite literally a show about
That's
just
true.
being in the workplace.
Yeah.
And just funny things that happen that people think, oh my God, that's so cringe. But then you sit there and it's like, oh, I've had a boss like that. Or,
Yeah,
oh, I've had a coworker like
It's
that.
relatable comedy.
It's relatable
There
comedy.
is a sense
yeah.
that like people like Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, George Carlin, they did make a wave of like testing or pushing the norms of sensitive topics on comedy.
Yeah,
But
like
there
the
was
boundaries.
also
They push the boundaries for
there was
sure.
a genuine moment where comedy really blew up because of its relatability.
Yeah.
A lot of comics
Because
started
you sit there
telling
and you're
stories.
Like, oh my God, I can't believe someone else goes through
Yes.
the same thing as me in a
Yes,
funny
dude,
way,
yes.
you know?
A
And I
lo-
think that's why comedy is so relatable. And, you know, we'll get into people who are in the modern era like
Yeah.
Tom Segura, Burt Kreischer, Chappelle. I mean, Chappelle's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's saying a
Chappelle's
lot of
one of the
things
biggest.
that's like really happening like
Yeah.
currently, you know, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, wow, that's so real. Like
Mhm.
that is such a real, like, yeah, some of it's in bad taste, but then you sit there and you're like, well,
I
it
think
is.
I think one of the core elements of comedy is trying to tell a joke that makes you realize, oh, I've thought that before. Or
Yeah,
I've been there before.
yeah, but like I'm too scared to admit it, or
Yeah,
I'm like in a
yeah.
position where I can't admit it and stuff like that, where it's just like it truly is an art form. Like comedy is truly an
Mhm.
art form and a way
Absolutely.
to tell it how it is without directly telling it how it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. The kind of comedy throughout the years is also something that went through a lot of shifts, and we've discussed some of this stuff already. You know, you had the slapstick, the quick-driven types of jokes that was early on, kind of evolved into like social commentary during the 1950s to 70s era, like where it was all about like what was going on in the world. Yeah, then that's when. Yeah, I think it actually does kind of line up that in the 80s to 90s era, that was around the time where it started to become more relatable comedy,
Yeah.
like what was going on in the
Around
household.
Seinfeld.
I like to hit
and,
my
like, all
wife.
that.
And
Yeah, yeah. And you're like, whoa.
whoa,
but
did he
then-
just say that?
Yeah, but then again, you do have people who are like, like
That's kind of funny.
that's crazy, but
But
that shit happens, you know, like
it's-
in all reality, like, yeah, it happens. Like, you know, domestic abuse like happens. And it's like,
I just think of the Bill Burr one where he does like an impression. Was it Bill Burr or was it what's his name from?
I'm pretty sure Bill Burr has talked about
He just does an
domestic violence. I'm pretty sure
he does an impression of Sean Connery, and he's like, "Sometimes you just gotta give him a little slap."
But then you sit here and it's like, yeah, we can laugh.
But we
But
also
it's
have to
real,
say in
but-
nowadays comedy, we do not condone the
Yeah.
hitting of women.
And
It's like, that's
yeah,
the whole-
No one does, but like
Who
it's still
does?
funny to joke about from time to time. Like it's
We're gonna this is gonna be the episode, not the politics, but it's,
it's gonna be
the one.
this one that gets us
They're
canceled.
gonna
bros.
clip out. We condone it.
Yeah.
They're gonna somehow.
AI is real, bro.
Yeah.
Like you can take out one word and make it seem
It's
real.
it's
dude.
ridiculous, but yeah. And then obviously as it evolved even more, it got to like more. You would say maybe absurdist comedy. This is a weird wave that I do kind of think is worth mentioning. Comedians like Bo Burnham, John Mulaney.
Ah,
where it's
love-
like-
love John. By
John
the way.
Mulaney is a great freaking comedian.
dude,
I love John.
John. Yeah, dude is so
Swear jar.
funny. Like,
Said it at the same time. But anyway,
well, let's dive into the rest of it.
all right. No, I mean,
Two
but
shots.
where it's
Two
just
shots
like
for
the
Chad.
comedy's very goofy, and like Bo Burnham is a really wild example because it is just music and saying crazy shit.
He's very goofy, but at the same time, for someone who is not into like chat, I'm a musician, can't stand musicals. I just can't
Yeah.
like, and it's any musical. It's not like a specific person. That's just it's not my vibe. But I will say, Bo Burnham, especially Inside, that comedy special is one where like you can sit there and watch, and as someone who and this is like taking it to a real point, this isn't like a comedy point or anything like that, but for someone who struggles with like depression, for someone who struggles with anxiety and stuff like that, such as myself, it is one of those like it's almost hard to watch.
Mm.
It is almost one of those like I see the comedy part is funny, the music part is funny, but at the same time I also know what it's like to fully lose yourself in
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
complete a project.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to fully
You're talking Bo Burnham.
yeah,
Yeah.
to fully, almost like mentally break, where it's like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I said I
Mhm.
would keep my mind on it. I would keep going. I would keep doing this, and you push yourself, you push yourself, you push yourself.
Yeah.
And then a year or a year and a half or 2 years pass and you're still not done with it. And you can see the mental,
Yeah.
like, take it puts on your body, what it does to you as a person, how your demeanor changes, how your comedy changes,
You
how
notice
like
it
all of
a
your
little bit
music
too.
changes.
I mean, at least with his last comedy special, I noticed it a lot with Mulaney. Where you're like,
yeah,
dude,
getting
getting
clean,
clean,
yeah,
having to restart his life, stop the addiction.
losing his wife.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like,
crazy.
yeah.
Comedy is, I can't, I wish I could remember the exact
Comedy is
terminology.
dark. Overall, comedy
But
is
yeah,
dark,
it's
dude.
something like comedy is built by trauma or built by
Oh,
absurdity.
yeah. Comedy is like it. Comedy is one of those things where, like, if you haven't been through a traumatic childhood or you haven't been through
Yeah.
anything traumatic, you essentially like cannot be a comedian
Mhm.
because you don't know how to learn how to laugh
Yeah.
at your life and like what has happened to you. If you can't do that, then you can't be a comedian
Mm-hmm.
because you take life so seriously that you're like,
Go
I
back
can't even talk about
and
this.
take any comedian ever and tell
Yeah.
me they had the perfect mom and dad, grew up healthy,
None.
wealthy childhood, had
Yeah.
everything they wanted, or they had that and then they slipped. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
When I mean,
It's-
you even have Chappelle. I mean, Chappelle grew up going to a charter school and a arts driven school that was all about like trying to find like his career path in life through art. He decided to go through comedy, but then he also had to go through the hardships of being African American. He had to go through the hardships of like being
Yeah.
in a charter school where he's like one of the only African Americans, or like, stuff like that, where it's like, you know, at some point you're like, well, it shouldn't matter. Like, you don't have to deal with, X, Y, and Z and everything. But like to someone and being white, we're both white, we don't have that connectability, like we don't have that like, oh, I can relate to that, I can relate to this and to that and everything culturally and racially, that is someone where it's like, yeah, if you're in a charter school or a private school or an arts driven school where like there was not a lot of black kids,
Mhm.
it would take a toll on you, bro. And like that,
Yeah.
if you want to be a comedian, that really translates into how you view the world, how you view your jokes, how you interact with people.
Sorry, Kat.
It's just like one of those that, yeah, yeah. I just think you take your pain no matter what, uh, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're black or white or anything like that, you learn how to uh use that to fuel the fire, so to speak, you know?
I wish I could find the term. There's just a term that it talks like that. Is literally that whole point is that comedy is the something of something, but it's like is the like the outcome of hurt or something like that. I
Yeah.
can't think of it, but no, completely agree. It's all about people's upbringings, and usually the saddest people are the funniest people.
Yeah.
And it's really a bummer,
Well, and
but it's also like that almost is what makes them so relatable too. At the end of the day, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, quoting one of my favorite books, like ever, written and translated into a movie. I watched the movie before I read the book, and, pain demands to be felt.
Hmm.
And that's just one of those, and that's from Perks of Being a Wallflower. Pain demands to be felt in any regard, and it's up to you to choose how you feel that pain.
Yeah.
You either choose to sulk in it, you either choose to just shut down, deal with it on your own, don't let anyone in, all that kind of stuff. You either feel it through just like, all right, I'm going to work 40, 50, 60-hour weeks,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. Or you choose to try and find a positive outlet like comedy, like music, like art, like poetry, all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, it's one of those. I don't think you could not have something tragic in your life if you want to be someone who pursues a career in any type of art, whether it is, like I said,
Which is
comedy
a tragedy. The idea that is sort of the norm is sort of a bummer, but it's just kind of how life is.
Yeah. Yeah.
The happiest people are sometimes the most dull. Let's be
Yeah.
real. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes
Because they have no, and it's funny to say because you think about it in a English or literary sense, like there's no character development.
yeah,
If you haven't,
yeah,
if you have had nothing,
I completely agree.
if you've had nothing tragic in your life or a traumatic event or, a sad event or anything, because at the end of the day, we all are born and we all die. That's just something that happens.
Mhm.
I don't think you can take like, a parent dying when you're 35 or 40.
Yeah,
I don't think you can take that as a tragic event. Like, yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it sucks. But if you've had no like real, trauma or anything dramatic happen in your life, and I encourage chat to like look deep within themselves and like think of anything that's like really happened to them. I think everyone has a traumatic event, but I don't think it affects them
hmm
as it affects other people. And I think that just all coincides with your emotional
yeah,
state and like how you deal with things like that. I think everyone has a traumatic event, but I don't think some people just
and it's
react to it
it's
like
not to
others,
say that you can't have clean, happy comedians. The thing is,
Yeah, because Jim Gaffigan, I would say
sure,
like Jim Gaffigan's a funny guy,
hmm
but his wife is also like almost died,
well, that's what I was gonna
but
say.
he
It's just that
doesn't,
if you look at the statistics, um, analytically speaking, the sad comedians are the ones that are more successful. The comedy
yeah,
that
yeah,
relates to hurt
because they're able to
is the
take that
more
pain, that
yeah.
hurt, that
And
sadness
I
or
think
whatever,
because
and change it
the
into
whole
something
point of
positive.
comedy, the whole like job of it, the whole reason you go to listen to it or you choose to hear someone speak about it is that we're trying to find a way to heal it together because we're all going through it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
laughter, as cringy as it sounds,
Laughter's the best
is the best
medicine.
medicine.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it's true. It's true. Um, we are going to continue this conversation in just a second. We're going to kind of dive in to one kind of last little part here where we're going to circle back to cancel culture and about how comedy has come, what it's come to now. But me and Brent are going to take a little break. If you want to take a little potty break during our clink, go for it. But yeah, we're going to talk right now about cancel culture and is comedy still good as it was a couple years back or even farther. So
Yes. Cue the sad. So we've talked about a lot of comedians that have been influential within, comedy, going all the way from the late 1800s all the way to now.
Yeah.
So my question is, who are some comedians that you've seen live?
Oh man, dude. I mean,
Because I feel like we can't have a podcast without us mentioning like comedians.
I
we've
wish I
seen,
could remember the first one because there was one when I was a kid that I saw. He was a ventriloquist. It was not Jeff Dunham,
I love that.
but he was a church
You've always
comedian.
been a ventriloquist guy.
I respect the form. I do. I truly do. I think that it is like insane.
I think it's fascinating because I'm like, how? Like, there's times where I legitimately cannot tell if it's the ventriloquist or if it's the actual puppet.
Did you ever have, or like, did you know me when I had that one puppet? Yes, I had puppets. Did you know
Joey
me?
had many puppets.
Thank
He's had
you.
many.
Did you know me when I had the bird one where if I squeezed the beak, it would make a squeak sound? It was
Yeah.
like blue or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got that one from that comedian because he would sell those, and it was like one of my first
Oh.
puppets because I just thought it was cool. But no, I mean, yeah. So I wish I could remember his name because he was like one of the oldest comedians I can remember. However,
Dang, bro was taking money off of it was probably some random ass like website where he was like, let me just buy these in
Probably.
bulk and then like upprice them. Like,
go to some church's VBS. These
Yeah.
kids will love it.
yeah, these kids will love it, man. $50, $50 for this fool, and
Yeah.
it only cost like $15.
And I didn't pay for it. That was all the parents back in the day.
Well, yeah, we didn't have money.
didn't have
Are you
money.
crazy?
No, but to go through some of the top picks of all time that I've seen, I mean,
Bert
we've
Kreischer.
mentioned that we've seen Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura. Those were probably two of my favorite shows we've ever seen.
I remember bro got
What
up
wa-
on
what was
stage. He
that?
had the mariachi band.
Oh my god!
It was at the Hollywood Bowl.
yes,
LA.
that's right.
And
He started singing. They all started singing "Living on a Prayer." Didn't
yeah,
they?
yeah. And I think he sang "Rock You Like a Hurricane." Here I am.
Oh yeah,
rock you
dude.
like a hurricane.
It was so good. I mean, it was a great show.
I mean, it was-
Tom
yeah, it
was
was
also a
phenomenal.
fun one because like we
Tom was good. Tom was good.
that.
That was
who
in
did we see
Arizona.
first?
That was in Arizona. We saw Fluffy.
No, I know we saw
Flu-
that. I was gonna
first.
get to that.
We saw
I feel
Fluffy
bad,
first.
dude. I was just gonna say
Gabriel
this.
Iglesias.
I feel bad because I do not really have any memory of seeing him. I know
It
we
was
did.
because he just did a whole bunch of jokes that he's already.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing with Fluffy. I think at this point he's such a national, like, icon that he's like, I'm not writing any more jokes.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna write any
Well,
more. So he just like,
he just put out a new special
yeah,
on Netflix.
I
You see
seen.
that?
I
Oh
haven't
my
seen
God,
the
dude.
special, but I assume it's probably gonna be the same thing.
It's at least similar stories.
Probably gonna be the same thing. He's gonna
Yeah.
talk about Martin.
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 We did mention that we saw Jim Gaffigan. We saw him. We saw him in
Yamaha.
Yamaha.
Not
Not
Yamaha,
not
the brand.
The brand.
Yeah,
Yamaha.
we saw him at currently Sam Manuel or previously Sam Manuel.
We both
Now
saw Jeff
Yamaha.
Dunham together. That was fun
We did.
because
That was probably the first one we had
we
seen
saw
together.
it
Yeah,
because you invited me in my memory
in Ontario.
out of the blue.
Yeah.
And from what I can remember, you were just like, "Hey, dog, I might be seeing Jeff Dunham. You going?"
You down?
And I was like, "What?" Because at the time,
Yeah.
I was that kid who was like ridiculously into puppets.
Because I knew I was like, out of anybody, my man Joey's gonna appreciate this.
It was so
And
funny because it was like one of his first shows where he brought out the new puppet that was like Trump's like right hand man, and he was like a puppet smoking a cigarette, and he's like, Did he tweet? Did he tweet something? Oh my god!
Yeah, he was it was supposed to be Ahmed's son
Something
or
like that.
whatever. Yeah,
It was crazy, dude. It was
Yeah.
so much fun. I don't know if I've seen anyone else. I mean, I've been to the comedy club thing where there's been like.
see, I
other
haven't been to the comedy
comedians.
club.
Well, not. I
Or,
don't know if it's the comedy club, but I've been to comedy.
See, I want to go to the
places.
Laugh House.
I want to go to the Comedy Store.
Oh,
That
there's
seems
some
like
good
one of the
There's some
craziest
good ones
big
at
ones,
the Comedy
dude.
Store. I really want to see the MTV, like that comedy one that Ari Schiffer
Yeah.
hosts. I
He
really
just put out a
wanna see
special,
that
I
one.
think. I didn't see
See,
it.
I don't really care too much for his comedy, but I do
Yeah.
appreciate how many people he is friends with. Where I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to see Bobby Lee.
Oh man,
Um,
Bobby Lee's
bro,
a
it was so
weird
funny.
guy, dude.
Yeah, he's
a
weird, but
weird
he's funny,
guy.
bro. He's out of pocket weird, but he's so funny, bro. I want to see him. Want to see Bill Burr.
I wanna
Chappelle. Oh,
Chappelle would be such
dude,
a good
seeing
one.
Chappelle's on my bucket list.
At least
like-
Chappelle though is like.
He's a storyteller, bro.
At least we could probably get in.
Yeah,
You know who we would never be able
yeah.
to see? Kevin Hart. Dude, wasn't it like last time we were looking at tickets for Kevin?
It was like
was like-
$800 to $1,000
Oh
a
my
ticket, and it was
God.
like the very top, not close whatsoever. Like, yeah,
I don't. You know, Kevin Hart's one of those guys where I don't understand how he's so funny, because he's a funny guy. He's naturally gifted in comedy.
it's because he's short.
It's
It's because he's short, dude.
it's just looking at a tiny man yelling.
But you
like-
have to remember, like, see, for, because we're 24, 25, I personally grew up with Kevin Hart from middle school. I mean, you can remember me making the Deirdre jokes, bro.
Bro, I
Like-
was the kid because I was so sheltered that when you would make the Deirdre joke, I swear to God, I thought you came up with it.
I
thought you came up
could've
with Deirdre.
I wish I could have said.
There was another
I
one.
wish I could have said that I made it up.
Wait,
but-
the way my bank account set up,
Yeah,
that joke,
You see the way my bank account is set up. It takes 3 to 5 business days. Like,
I thought you made that up.
I'm glad because that's what made me funny. That's what made me funny up until sophomore year when you finally watched a Kevin Hart special.
yeah, and I was like, I
was lied to. I
was
was
like-
lied to.
No, honestly, it made me feel stupider. I literally was like, "Oh my God, I really hope no one knew that I was oblivious because I thought you were so cool."
That's good. That's good. That's why we became friends, bro. You hyped me up without even knowing it, bro. That's actually the basis of our friendship. Is you just hype me up even though you didn't know it. Yeah,
I'm just
that's
like,
it.
you're a cool dude.
Yeah, you're a cool guy. You're a cool guy, bro. You got jokes.
I'm trying to. I see you have Matt Rife on here.
I would
I
love to
be
see
okay
Matt
seeing
Rife.
Matt Rife. Did you see the clip of him recently where it was like the first time on one of his shows where someone jumped on stage
No,
and like it's so funny because like
He
guy
just
jumps
seems
on
like
stage.
one of those
the
guys
guy
where he's
wasn't
like, "Eh."
hostile,
yeah,
but he goes up to like give Matt a hug or something, and the security immediately gets the guy, runs out,
yeah.
and it's so funny because like you
Well,
look
he's
back
big.
At the
I mean,
footage,
he's big now. So
he's
it's-
pretty big.
He's got his own Netflix series now.
I don't like his facial
See,
hair.
I remember Matt Rife when
know
he
that's
was on
weird.
Wild and Out.
See,
And
I
it was
never-
before
saw-
he
I
got
saw
any
clips of that.
surgery or anything like that, and I was like, "Whoa, that's the same guy!" Like,
Matt Rife
like
is
little
funny.
white guy,
Matt
bro.
Rife
Like,
is funny. He's a great what is it called when you
he's
crowd
a
work
good crowd work
work
guy.
comedian.
Yeah.
He's great at it. I mean,
Yeah.
really good at it.
I think it's because I'm pretty sure he grew up doing improv.
Mm.
So I think he's just really good at like the on the fly type of thing. I
my
really want to
God.
see Joey Avery. I don't know if
Joey Avery.
he's like a smaller comedian, but he seems so wholesome, bro. He just seems like a wholesome guy, very funny. He doesn't really make fun of a lot of people. He like I actually seen him for the first time on Facebook, not reels, but like whatever the
Whatever it
stories
is,
are for Facebook.
Shorts.
But he just seems like a funny, just a genuine, like someone I would want to like grab a beer with after the show, like type of guy. He
I
just seems like a cool guy.
looked it up. One I would love to see is Jimmy Carr. I don't know.
Oh,
He's the British
yeah,
one who
yeah.
literally his whole career is just making offensive jokes.
Yeah,
Like he just
yeah.
and like he's also so quick to be able to. He has comebacks for days. People will like he'll literally say, "All right, time for you guys to heckle me."
Yeah, and
Throw
he
out your
literally-
worst insults.
Yeah, and he brings a mic out to the crowd,
And they'll do their
just-
best,
yeah.
and he's always got something right back at them where you're just like, "Dang!"
That's
Like,
improv, dude. That's
it's
improv.
so
You
good.
got to start
He's
with
so
improv.
funny.
I want to see that one fool. Oh my god, I forget his name. He's in movies. He's the was it The Best Man Wedding or something like that? It was the
I don't know what you're referring to.
oh my god. He was with Aubrey Plaza in the movie. Yeah, oh my gosh,
He
dude.
was with Aubrey Plaza?
Not The Best Man Wedding. I think it's I forget
I
his
don't
name.
know.
Oh, Adam Divine or whatever his name is. Divine.
Adam.
It's not Adam Levine because that's the fool from Maroon 5. But
Oh, he was also in what's that one with the cup song?
yeah, Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
That guy.
What's his name? What's his name?
Adam Devine.
Adam Devine.
Divine,
Okay,
Devine.
yeah, whatever it is.
V with the
He
capital
seems
V. He does.
he
seem
seems
pretty
like a funny guy. He
oh
seems
my
like a funny
God,
guy.
there's another guy, but I don't know his name.
I really want to see Bill Burr. Like I
Bill
really want
Burr-
to see Bill
He's so
Burr.
unhinged, dude.
He
You
is.
cannot get that guy angry.
Yeah.
Well, talking about offensive jokes.
Oh, he's
one
offensive
of my
to me.
favorite jokes of all times. He set up so perfectly. He was like, I've always considered myself pro-choice. It's a woman's body.
Why do you say it exactly like him? By the way,
You can choose. It's your life. And he's like, I still think it's murder. And then he goes on to like explain how he gets confused about abortion, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, it's like if you were making a cake and you put all the ingredients into a bowl, you throw the thing into the oven. 10 minutes later, a guy comes out, throws the bowl of cake mix across the floor, and you're like, what are you doing? That was my cake." And the guy goes, "Well, it wasn't a cake yet." He's like, "Well, yeah, but it would have been if you wouldn't have thrown the ingredients on the floor."
maybe if it didn't come out retarded.
Oh my God. We're getting canceled for sure.
Yeah, we need to put the explicit mark on this one.
This one's
bro.
bad. So bad.
I mean, what's worse, the fact that I said the word retarded, or the fact that you sounded exactly like Bill Burr?
Dude, I feel like I was actually nailing it. I feel like
you
that
did.
was-
Yeah, it was like definitely nine
Holmes.
9 out of 10.
Do you know Pete Holmes off the top of your head? He did
I
it.
don't think so.
He just did a joke, and again, it's just one of those ones where he's attacking both sides, where he's like, "You guys can believe whatever you want to believe, but like atheists, I just don't understand why you get so mad at the Christians, because like you believe in science and you believe that like in the beginning there was nothing, and to me that just doesn't make any sense." And he's like, "And you know why? You know what nothing is? It's nothing." That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I really want to see John Mulaney. I really want to, like,
It would be so good too.
dude. The fact that John Mulaney was in LA and we didn't go see him is tragic. Like, that is tragic.
It's a fail. It's a fail on
The
us.
flop. It's a flop on our part, bro.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Well, let's continue.
Let's get back
Let's-
onto like an actual point of conversation here.
We're sorry, chat, for the cancellation,
no,
but like,
yeah.
my God, there's some funny jokes, bro.
This is what we're saying. And
There's a lot of ha-has.
There's
like,
a lot of hee-hees.
like Tom Segura would say.
Yeah. I'll kick your chest through your back.
I'll kick your chest through your back.
You know,
Bikes! Bikes!
can't, dude. I just okay.
Hey, yo!
Young blood.
Your blood!
Okay.
Tom Segura is probably the funniest comedian right now, bro.
I mean, his setup, his delivery, his writing, it's all perfect.
The monotone.
It's so
part, like,
good.
I could quite literally quote every single
can
Tom Segura
hear
joke.
him in my head right now.
Yeah, I'll kick your chest through your back. The most goated line to say about a child.
Oh God, dude. Sorry. Oh man. Okay. I want to get it back on track. Speaking of all this
It's been
offensive
unhinged
comedy
since
that we
the
have,
beginning.
no, I know, but we actually just went on a weird spell of like offensive comedy to probably quite a few of our members, to chat, and
It's fine if our Aussie listeners
if
are
all
listening.
our Aussie listeners don't care, they're all.
We've had Aussie listeners every single episode.
I love that.
Every single one.
Every single one.
Even if it's just
Everyone.
one listener.
Speaking about all the censorship and the cancel culture of it all, I kind of want to just like wrap up this episode by talking a little bit about that, and like, do we think that, one, we mentioned in the beginning that we kind of think that whoa, what happened to my voice? We kind of think that comedy is sort of on a downhill slope right now.
Yeah.
And I
For
want to
sure.
know, do you think that like it's all downhill? Because we also mentioned how sometimes tragedy happens and it doesn't even take a day for the world to joke about it. So it's like, stop, I can see you smirking. I'll give you credit though, dog. I'll give you so much credit. I could see your face muscles trying so hard not to smile when I said tragedy.
Because all I think about is my life being a tragedy.
But do you think that it's all downhill? Do you think that there are still a good enough amount of comedians and comics and just comedy in general that can break the norm for it to be enjoyable? Or do you think it's only going to keep getting worse? Karens keep coming out of nowhere, and people getting so angry with how... Because the thing that I also wanted to talk about is like the whole reason comedy in general is nice is because it literally plays into the fact that we have free speech.
Yeah.
You're allowed to just say whatever you want. That's the whole point. It's to break what we think we can't say. Sorry, I've asked like 3 questions in like one sentence, but please, I want to hear.
I mean, I think it's definitely become harder to be a comedian, especially in 2025. I would say 2020, maybe 2023 to 2024 was pretty rough because I think like the whole woke culture, and like not the normal woke culture where it's like, yeah, you should be, open to like what's actually happening, like politically and like racially, all that kind of stuff, like racial discrimination and everything. I don't knock woke culture, but I think like there's certain people that have taken it so, like, I'm gonna take it upon myself to speak for a minority group, or like this like group of people that are being I guess spoken against, or stuff like that. There's certain groups where it's like, buddy, stay in your own lane,
Yeah.
be an ally, but like, you, out of everybody, should not be the one to be speaking up for another person. Like, it's just like, I speak up in your Instagram stories, speak up on your Twitter, speak up, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, again, you're paying to go see a comedian, you're going to see a comic, and then you're going to sit there and instead of just listening, be like, I mean, I'm a little offended, but, it's fine because I'm at a comedy show. You're going to find them, like, you're going to have the balls to sit there and then, like, talk in the middle of a comedy show to the comedian who's getting paid. You paid $30 for their ticket. You paid 40, 50, 60, for Kevin Hart. You paid like $800 and $900 for a ticket.
Yeah.
And then you're going to sit here and try and tell them what they're doing wrong in the middle of their job. Like, to me, I'm just like,
it's unnecessary.
You deserve everything that comes to you on the crowd work side. Like, you do.
Yeah.
You do. Like,
He makes fun of your big ass forehead.
Cry. I hope you cry and you walk out. Like, I'm sorry. I have no sympathy. I have no sympathy for it, bro.
It's like a dude talking to his friends, and he's like, "Would you guys be there for me if I was going through something?" And all the guys,
like, no,
hell no,
dude, hell no.
I can't wait to go to your funeral knowing that I could have changed the outcome.
Yeah. Dude, that's my favorite. That
so good.
And then people sit there and then be offended in the comments.
Wow, why
I'm
would they say that to their own friend?
I'm like,
that's
it's
not a real
satire.
friend.
It's satire, dude.
It's
like
ridiculous.
It's a literally like no one would sit there and say some shit like that in real life, and that's the thing where I'm like, in 2025, too many people are offended about things that have nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
And they feel like, I gotta be a keyboard warrior and I gotta sit here and, like defend the minority when it's like, it's a joke. Like, it is a joke. The people who it's about are not the ones getting offended. So why the hell are you getting offended? Like, it's just one of those. And like, yeah, I talk pretty abrasive about the subject, but it's like such a subject that is like, such a big thing in my life because I enjoy the art of comedy. It's not just like I enjoy comedians. I enjoy like, having a laugh. Like, I appreciate the art because me being an artist, you being an artist, like in our own rights, like it's one of those, how are you going to sit here and commentate and dictate on what someone's doing when like the whole point is to spread awareness of like this situation.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with like the joke having some underlining meaning of like, I hate my friends or I hate, like I hate this group or that group or, it's not a hate thing. It's literally a like, how can I get people to open up their eyes to like the situations that are going on, especially with like Chappelle. We had talked about it before. He's a storyteller.
Yeah.
And he's someone who brings up real world situations in a funny way to like, yeah, you laugh, but then at the end of the show, it makes you think like, oh damn, like he was kind of right.
No,
like, yeah,
makes you
people
think.
do think that way. Like people do
It's
like say this or
thought-provoking,
that, I will never forget. I mean, cause I watched can't remember what it was. I think it was just, he had like 3 parts to it, and they put them all out like back to back to back on Netflix, but obviously it was like years, like a span of years to like craft it. And the whole thing, he had brought up transgender, like
Chappelle?
the first 2 shows, right? And it was like heavy.
This was
yeah,
Chappelle?
And this was Chappelle.
I know exactly.
And
which
he
show
brought
you're
he
talking
brought it
about.
up like
Yeah.
super heavy, and the LGBTQ, I think it's IA now or something like that. They had like slammed him on like Twitter, now X, but at the time it was Twitter. They had slammed him on Instagram, Reddit, all of these, all the major social media platforms.
Yeah.
And they had slammed him on like he was queer phobic, he was transphobic, he was all these things. And the last show he put out, he had brought up all of these issues that the LGBTQ plus at the time, I believe, had brought up about him And he was like, but the thing is like, you guys don't want to see my life and how like trans people have directly affected my life, and that I was best friends, with this person who would come to like every single show of mine, that was always in the stands, who always appreciated, like would always come up to me after shows and everything and say like, hey, you're a genius, like essentially, like, and like what you're saying is like real. I appreciate your art. I appreciate like what you're saying, what you're doing, and everything. They were trans. And then they died,
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing was to bring, I guess, awareness to like, I have nothing against this community of people, but everyone wanted to make it about I'm against this or I'm against that. And it's like, it had nothing to do with that, because one of these people who was very influential and effective in my life had passed, and they were that, like the thing that you guys like claim I'm sitting
That
here
I'm so
like
against.
yeah, and it's like I had nothing against this person. This person was like always there for me, always,
People jump to
rooting me on.
conclusions. They hear something that offends them or that they can be offended for someone else, and they immediately jump to conclusions and use that because people like to fight. The thing that's so funny about
Yeah,
it is like
yeah.
when you think about it in its base nature, everyone is so sensitive about what we can say or not say in comedy. But the reason you don't want to say it is because it could hurt people's feelings. Yet, like the people who get offended are the ones who are so quick to fight. They're
Yeah,
the ones that are
yeah.
so immediate to be like, I will literally fight you right now.
But
And
then,
I will say
like, you
things
have
to
people who are
Yeah.
in the group of people who are like being, like, quote unquote, being made fun of, or
Mistreated.
like,
yeah.
mistreated, or oh, you're talking down on me, or oh, you're roasting me, or all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people who are like the least offended.
Yeah.
They're like, yo, you got chops, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like that shit was real. Like, that was some real shit you just said, And I mean, watching that, and again, I've never seen Chappelle, but I sat there, I watched all 3 parts in one sitting. Like, it was like, I'll never forget it. I was in the living room one night. Everyone had went to sleep. I was like, I can't sleep. I'm going to watch Chappelle, right? Never really watched Chappelle before. Maybe seen like one of the old Chappelle, because I watched the Chappelle show. So like I knew who Chappelle was. I really like, oh, this dude's funny. I was like, I'm going to watch all 3. But I sat in one sitting and watched all 3 of those like episodes on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, I was crying, bro. Like I was crying like a baby. I was like, damn, like that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like it is like such a, for someone who is not in that realm of like, I mean, I'm not in that cultural group. I'm not in that, just anything about it. Like I do not have anything that I can relate to with that. But it was one of those like, damn,
it hits you.
like it's eye opening. Like it really is eye opening. And like even in that show, he had like pointed out, crowd work wise, he's like, I see that person right there getting offended because I said one thing and you're not laughing anymore. Because you want to be offended for someone else, but you have no idea like what I'm trying to say right now. You don't get it. Like you obviously do not get what I'm trying to say by being offended. And I think that's the thing. I think people are too quick to judge. People are too fast to like, oh, I didn't like that, so I hate you. But I'm gonna sit through this whole hour and a half, of you roasting the certain like, group or religion or culture or whatever. But I'm not gonna like listen to what's actually being said and like what the message is behind all of it. People hear one thing and they want to be mad.
This sort of kind of leads into one of the final questions for you and me is, do you think that we can, as people, ever just learn to laugh at ourselves again? Do you think that it's always going to, do you think it's going to get worse before it gets better? Do you think it will ever get better? I like to think that, you have the few Joe Schmoes who make fun of Liam when he jumps, but you also,
I mean, it's kind of funny.
but you
Some of
also
the
like
jokes are
you do
funny.
have a very wide majority of people who didn't used to be as vocal. I'm sure there were people, the Karens back in the day, who just
Yeah.
thought that they were who would get offended, but then wouldn't say anything because then you're a little slop,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sorry,
That was
but people
good tie-in. Good
people are
tie-in.
so much more vocal now about being offended, and are so because it's so easy. Even with social media makes it such a bad wave of like, now my voice can reach millions of people so fast because it's like I just post a TikTok, people will hear that I'm complaining about this issue, and now people are agreeing with me and talking the same and now the whole thing is just growing and growing and growing, and I don't know. Do you think that we're going to get better, or do you think we'll never learn to laugh at ourselves again, or do you think let me stop there because I have another question, an add-on, but go ahead.
Well, I would say in 2025, it's a different time. I mean, not to get into like all the personal beliefs that I have,
Mm-hmm.
but I think with how politics have been right now, how the president is right now, how just things culturally and um, religiously at this point, how just all of these things that are going on right now. Um, I think some people have more room to be understanding because I think like we're living in a world right now where like, to be honest, as Americans, and again I gotta say that because we got our Aussie listeners, we got people in Japan listening, Italy,
Mm-hmm.
France, like all these different places. It's not just America that's listening. We live in a world right now where gas prices high, grocery bills all time high. I mean, we're paying like almost $1 an egg
Mm-hmm.
at the grocery store, right? We have so much stuff going on currently right now where it's like the only thing we can do to get over like the real issues we're facing right now is just to laugh about it because there is nothing else that we can do.
Yeah.
I mean, like I hate to be that guy. It sounds like really sad, but it's like there's nothing else we can do right now.
No, yeah.
I
I hear
mean,
you.
people voted it in. People wanted, you know, like, this is what we want, blah, blah, blah. Well, now we're facing the repercussions of it. There's a lot of shit going on right now that's like very negative in America. And it's like, I think maybe Americans can finally take this and actually use it as well, if we can't do anything about it, let's just laugh about it. Let's just laugh about the things going on and, try and feel a little bit better about our circumstances. Because at the end of the day, that's like really what comedy is. It's all about like, hey, let's take these real world circumstances that we're living in right now and like, let's just try and laugh about it.
Yeah.
Let's make a
Yeah.
joke out of it, and even though it's real, we can still find a time where we can come together and we can all have a shared experience and just have a good laugh and like have a good time,
I think that's
because
the
there's nothing
most
else we can do.
I think that's the most important thing to take into account is that it is truly a way for all of us to come together and have an escape. That's I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think every single one of us just want a little bit of escape. We need a break. We need,
Yeah.
life is so hard.
I mean, work is hard, money's hard. Housing is hard.
Housing is hard.
Everything is hard, man. I mean, it's cheaper to eat fast food than it is to get groceries.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and when have we ever
why
lived in
wouldn't
a
it
world
just
like that?
be- And yeah. And it's just like laughing just seems like such a healthy way, even if it's not
to get through it.
to get through it. Yeah.
I mean, we all have a fear of like what's to come. We all, I don't know about you, but we're adults, and I just hit 25, and
Ugh, gross.
we're
Old
at quarter,
man.
we're at quarter life now. Not even quarter life, because there ain't no way I'm living to 100 at the way my diet.
I've said 1,000
and
times,
all-
do not let me get there.
Yeah,
If I'm
like-
getting there, it's not from my own free will.
25 is not quarter life. We're looking at like 30% life, like already up, but it just looking at how things are right now and where we're at, it's just one of those things where you kind of have to sit back and you kind of got to make a joke out of all of it to
Mhm.
feel a little bit better. It's
Yeah.
all about feeling just a little bit better about like the poor situation that we're all in right now.
To give you a little,
and
aha.
and to have just a little haha, and just to laugh, because I mean, it doesn't even go into our political state or anything like that, but just where we live, there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of, I don't know about you, like I'm very empathetic. I see all the homeless everywhere. I see, these people like fighting to survive, people living in tents at a park because they have nowhere else to go, getting kicked out of a park, living under bridges, stuff like that. And it's like, I'm just thankful to be where I'm at. I'm thankful to have food on the table every night. I'm thankful to have a bed to sleep in, roof over my head, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm fortunate, but not everyone else is,
Mhm.
and I think it's one of those, if we can just kind of laugh about the situation we're in, it's not offending, it's just like saying what real life is, and I think if we're able to laugh about the real world situations, then it can make the world a better place rather than always complaining or always, unless you're doing anything about it, which 90% of the people don't. Let's just be honest. I mean, how many times do you roll your window up or not even look at anyone who's on the side of the road asking for money where they really need it, type of thing? Like, if you're one of those people, you try to ignore it, but it's like, if you don't ignore it, you might as well go head on and try and laugh about the situations that are going on and just
No,
try and get through it, in a positive situation, So that's just me. I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but
No, I think that's a great stance. I think that's kind of where we all should head, is we all should just learn to laugh at each other again, and yes, at each other, not with each other. It's kind of just human nature to
yeah, we all do stupid shit.
Yeah.
I mean, why not laugh about, because people grow.
Mhm.
That's something that I don't think a lot of people realize either. It's like, we're not the same people we were at 16.
Yeah.
We're not the same people we were just at 18,
It's also not to say that we're condoning just going out and being offensive for no reason to
No,
random
yeah,
strangers.
there's
You
a
shouldn't
place-
just go
there's
to a
place and
midget
time, There's
and
a
be
place and
like,
a time.
"Oh my god."
The hands?
Like,
Like, yeah.
you can't do that.
Yeah, no,
That's-
you can't do that. You can't do that. But like,
But
you got to know your audience.
you got to know your audience.
and
And if you know us, then
I
you
hope
know
we
that
know
that is
our
one
audience,
of
'cause
actually
let
our
me tell
oldest
you.
jokes
Yeah.
on the show. We did that a long time
The
ago.
hands.
The hands.
Bites.
Bikes. But yeah, so I hope you guys learned something today from these two.
I hope you guys don't instantly cancel us from all the shit
Don't
we've
worry.
been talking about.
I'm definitely gonna be still having to censor so much just because of the rules. We could throw this out on Patreon if we really wanted to, but
We should have another comedy episode that we put out on Patreon.
it's just
We
total,
should have a
total unhinged.
We should have a stand-up episode on Patreon.
What do you mean stand? Oh, like for some reason my fat ass thought
I gotta stand for a whole
I gotta
episode?
stand for a whole 30 minutes. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think this is a good place to wrap up. I think you guys kind of understand where we're coming from. Hopefully you enjoyed learning a bit about the history of comedy and everything that we've talked about today. And I hope you guys can learn to just laugh more, like we've said. And I hope that together we can, as Brent said, make the world a better place and just smile a little bit and not be so quick to anger anymore. It's not about that. But, with that said, we always have a question for you. And I would love to know what the most offensive joke any of you have ever heard. I want to know the most.
Please. Please. We got social media posts coming out every day for the rest of this week. And, it'll be for the education episodes. But, we really hope, really hope. Comment on the education episodes.
Please.
Comment on the comedy episodes. Let us know what the offensive joke is.
Most
that
offensive.
you've ever heard.
Don't hold back.
Don't worry. We won't delete them. Please.
We're not those guys.
If you have to make another Instagram or another X account or
I
something
would
like
love
that,
to
please do
see
it.
what joke could make me and Brent determine whether or not we should delete it.
Yeah.
I want to know how bad it can get.
Because you gotta know. As comedy fans, we've
heard it all.
Most jokes, so
Yeah.
please, if you guys hear this right now, comment on literally any post, any post. It could be literally the first post of anything, and because I'm the one that runs the social media, I will personally let Joey know, and we will both comment on how f***ed up the post is, but how great of a post it is, so
We'll definitely include it. We'll talk about it on air as well, just to really, depending on how bad it is, we might have to censor the joke itself.
Nah,
you're crazy.
Not on the Patreon.
Not on the Patreon. So go check out our Patreon show, Back to the Cabin.
At patreon.com/the Woodsmen Podcast. The Woodsmen.
The Woodsmen Podcast. We give him a little slap.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. But yes, thank you guys so much for joining us again. This has been a great episode. Nice seeing you again, buddy. I'll see you in 4 days.
I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow at work. But thank you guys so much for watching and listening to all of our audio listeners. We have been your hosts, Joey Rucker.
And Brent Murphy. Yeah. Later, Gators.
The Woodsmen Podcast is actively reading and responding to anything and everything on Instagram and our email.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the show, or would like to possibly be on the show, you can email us at thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com.
Make sure to keep up with all things Woodsman related on Instagram and X at WoodsmanPod.
Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe to the Woodsmen Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, with video exclusively on YouTube and Patreon.
Make sure to follow our personal accounts at Strange Kids and Piemaster J on all platforms. The Woodsman Podcast is co-produced by Brent Murphy and Joey Rucker.
Recorded at Elite Sound Studios, located in the Inland Empire.
Written by Brent Murphy.
Technical support by Eric Bessero.
Video editing by Joey Rucker. And Blood, Sweat, and Tears by all of us.
Any additional content by the Woodsmen Podcast may not be used without our permission. Copyright Cabin 13 Productions.
And remember, if it offends you, get over it.